All right, so we're on, and I'm here with Raymond Barnes, and I got a hold of you because I saw some of your posts, and you talk about things that I think that a lot of people deal with, maybe not on the level that you dealt with them on, but like I've had good friends of mine that people I liked very much that were touched by addiction and stuff like that. Like it was a tough road. And I mean, like one buddy of mine, I liked him a lot growing up. He was terrific. Some people didn't get him or whatever, but he probably spent more of his adult life in prison than he did outside of prison. And it was rough. I mean, he's definitely a changed person, and he definitely was changed from when we were kids till, when he was running around in Joliet on the hill and trying to, get crack or coke or whatever he was trying to get. So,
and they're done that.
yeah, right. So I saw it be real hard on a guy. And I also saw it it kind of demolished the guy too. Like he was a rock of a guy, and it just ate away at him. You know what I mean? Like he's not the same person anymore. He's a shell of what he was when we were kids. I don't know, all of your story. I saw some of the inspirational stuff you post, and I know you're a highly religious guy. But is that something that you found because of the addiction stuff, or was it something that you always had?
No, I got saved back in 2010 when I got out of released from prison.
Okay.
I don't like to say I'm religious because a lot of people associate religion with rules.
Sure.
Do's and don'ts.
Right.
See, when I came to Christ and he came into my life and I was able to change from being a drug addict to being a child of God, my desires change. Good. It's no longer a burden. I'm a blessing. And it's not that I have to do the things I do. I want to do the things I do. I never wanted to do dope.
Yeah,
I never wanted to smoke crack and be up for 7 days.
Right. Well,
you know what I mean?
I've never smoked crack, so I don't know.
I've done everything. I was a heroin addict for 10 years. I've done 10 years in prison. But I've been through numerous rehabs. And the only thing that changed my life was Christ when I took him into my life. See, because then it's no longer about yourself; it's about him and what he did for you.
I've heard a lot of people that finding spirituality or finding Christ, even if it's Buddhism or whatever it is, it's definitely something that they it helps them with the whole addiction thing. Like there's a certain euphoria to the, I don't want to say religion, but like to the spiritual connection that you get from the, so what do you do? If it's not a religion, do you go to church then or no?
I go to, I go to church. I serve Christ the way he serves me.
So when you go to church, what denomination would you say the church is?
I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I don't claim a denomination. Only thing I claim is Jesus Christ.
Got it.
I don't like denominations and separations.
Okay. Right. I get that. Sounds good.
That's how I feel. There's Catholic, there's Baptist, Methodist, Lutheran.
Yep.
And if we all have Christ in common, why does there have to be a separation? You know what I mean?
I agree. And I'm not the most religious or spiritual guy, or, I did 4 years of a Bible study that was pretty in depth. It was like homework, and like we studied scripture. I know my Bible pretty good, but it's not part of my life right now. So, and the thing that I did was non-denominational. I grew up in a family we grew up Catholic, but my mom became a Jehovah's Witness. So it was a battle between my father, who was a Catholic altar boy and my mother was this other thing, and she hated the Catholics and he hated her for it. I mean, and they got divorced for all their other reasons, but I saw that division you're talking about firsthand. Like, it was definitely, those people are no good. Those people are crazy. You know, my mom would say stuff about my dad that's not even, that has nothing to do with the Bible. They're just following all these silly rules and wearing silly costumes and all this other stuff. So I feel like I don't begrudge anybody any of that. If you feel like you're a devout Catholic, knock your socks off. If you're a super scripture reader, knock your socks off. That's great. I would say I'm agnostic. I'm not here to tell anybody anything because I don't know anything. Like, I don't say that there is no God, but I don't say that there is. You know what I mean? I live by a code that says I have to be a decent human being, because if I'm in this part of my life where I'm not really walking with Christ, then I'm beholden to me, and I've only got one life. I look at my mom's situation, and she's doing everything that she's doing, it seems like, for the afterlife. Like, she's doing everything because she thinks there's a reward.
Hey, but that's the great thing about Jesus Christ. See, you don't have to do anything more. He already did it. There's nothing more we can do in the flesh that Christ hasn't done. If that was possible, why did a man have to die? If we can achieve salvation on our own, by our own merit and by our own works of the flesh, what was the use of God sending his only son to be beaten and to be nailed to a cross?
Right. No, I understand all that. I read all that.
I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I mean, that's my foundation, and that's where I got to stand on it, because it's not about, like I said, for me, it's not about religion. It's about relationship, and relationship with my Savior, Jesus Christ. Right. And out of that, I can build relationships with people that are suffering the way I have. Got it. And the only thing I can do is point them to Christ.
Sure. Now, so do you try and help other people that have been through what because I mean, it seems like you've got a wealth of experience and knowledge of, like, I mean, you've been inside that mind. So, like, you could, because I'll tell you what, like, it was my buddy Tim that spent all that time in prison and everything else. And he was a different person. We would go pick him up. He'd get out of jail. We'd be with him. We'd try and keep an eye on him. We'd fall asleep, and that bugger would be take off and go wherever he'd go and hook up with her. And then we'd find him, seriously, like 2 months later, in some crack house with a bunch of people that were people we would never hang out with. And he was living there with them, like, sleeping with some of them and stuff like that. It was like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? So, that was tough. And then, so, like, it was impossible for us as just people who couldn't get in his brain to get through to him. Like, I've done some drugs. I don't have an addictive personality. I just don't, I probably chewed tobacco for 10 years. And then one day I just set it down and never picked it up again.
Right.
It just wasn't something that I, didn't have a hold of me. I've gone out and done cocaine that I've never woken up in the morning and said, I got to get more of that. I've always said to myself, Jesus Christ, I should never do that again. That's a bad idea.
Boy.
Right.
Like I said, you got the people you're able to touch with your experience and the people I'm able to touch or do. Now, you asked me if I work with people. Actually, Bob Allen, I know he won't mind me saying his name. He's in John 3 right now. 18 months ago.
Now, Bob's a cop, right?
Huh?
Bob's a cop, right?
No, he's a union laborer.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I thought he was. I think I got the wrong guy. Okay, all right.
Anyway, he's in John 3 right now. 2 years ago, me and my wife separated, and then I started drinking again.
Oh, yeah,
So I was drunk for 6 months, till one day I drank 2 fists before I went to work, and decided I was either going to kill myself or go to the hospital. Yeah. And so I checked in, and I went to John 3, and that's where Bobby Allen's at right now, because he called me and wanted the help.
All right, so what's John 3?
John 3:16 is a spiritual boot camp for men in Charlotte, Arkansas.
Okay.
6 months to a year program, and it's totally free.
Wow. So, like, you have to 6 months to a year, you have to like foot the bill? I mean, how do you,
No, Jesus prayed the
like, how
prayer.
do you not be at work?
Well, for half the people there, they weren't at work anyway.
Makes sense, right? Okay, I get it.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So what, how far were you willing to get high? What would you have done to get high? Are you willing to do the same amount, put the same effort in to stay sober?
Oh, okay. So I get it. All right. So the John 3 is it's a boot camp for people that have addiction.
Yes. It's a spiritual
Okay.
boot
All right.
camp
I thought
for
it
men
was,
with addictions. I'm
okay.
sorry.
I thought it was like a religious, or spiritual like retreat that somebody went to. I'm like, oh my
Well,
gosh.
it is almost, because they don't tell you
Right.
nothing about addiction. It's
Okay.
nothing more than at 6 a.m. we get up, we go to breakfast. 6:25 we do an hour-long Bible study. 8 o'clock you got to be at work. Noon we do another Bible study.
Wow.
And at 5:30, at 6 o'clock in the evening, you do another Bible study. Every man there has their own room. He's got his own TV. He's got, there's anywhere from 8 to 16 man houses. And like I said,
And it's only dudes. It's only guys.
all men. Oh, yes.
Yeah, right,
But there's another one up the road called John 3:17 for women. But all you do is focus on your relationship with Christ and step away. We call it keeping your mind on this side, on the camp side of the mailbox. Forget about your bills. Forget about your wife. Not literally, but you can't focus on it because you weren't doing that when you were out. You weren't doing that before you came to John 3:16. So when people start giving us those excuses, it don't fly. It don't fly. Okay, dude, you spent $25,000 on crack and you're going to tell me you got to be home to work, right?
Yeah,
Come
right. No. Yeah, you better.
Yeah.
I agree. You better take a sabbatical and figure yourself out.
Yeah. I mean, where else are you going to be? If you don't, you're going to be in the same spot you are a year from now.
Yeah. No. Right. No, it sounds awesome. Now, who runs that and how do they fund it?
Okay, so it's run by Brian Tog. Brian Togel's the director. You can Google it and find the ministry, take a tour of the camp. But it's all done by fundraising. We do catering events. Last year we had Crowder. Last month we had King and Country. So what we'll do is we'll go out. They call it Ticket Trail. So they'll go out and sell tickets to this event. $15. You get a dinner, you get a chance for a raffle, and you get to see a concert. All for $15, and it supports the ministry. Now through corporate sponsors, they pay for the entertainer and the venue usually and stuff like that. But we actually just had another place donated $2.5 million for another ranch for them to open up.
Nice. So, like, I mean, I'm sure you get some there. With that, they get some donors that are. I have a buddy of mine who his son fell into addiction, and he was, I think, 19 years old at the time. Overdosed on heroin, died. When I got the word, we were on a construction job, and the person we were working for was a mutual friend of ours, and she said it, and I was like, no, that can't be right. The dad was like, he was a square, to be honest with you. The guy was like if somebody had pot, even, he was like, oh, you guys in that damn pot, and like he was such a square. It was
right.
Insane. I could not believe that his son ended up in that situation where he overdosed on heroin, because in my mind, like, I know like that stuff escalates quickly, but like my drug experience is limited to booze, a little tiny bit of pot. Like pot was really never my thing, and then some cocaine, and then like that was more or less. Someone said try it. I tried it. It seemed like drinking a bunch of cups of coffee, and we stayed up till 5 a.m. playing cards, doing whatever stupid thing we were doing. And then we slept till 2 p.m. the next day. And every single time I did it, I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever, because my whole day was shot the next day. It was totally gone. And then my night and days were all fucked up and everything else. So I really, for me, it wasn't a thing. Like, I mean, I did it a handful of times, but I've always been a guy that was like insanely wired. And I get real upset if I like piss away a day, even on social media, or I don't play video games because that's just a waste of time too.
Right.
I got way too much to do. For me, like my life is the construction jobs with my sons. I'm a real estate broker. I'm a quadriplegic. So I don't know if you knew that or not.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I'm paralyzed from like my armpits down. I was in a scaffolding accident 17 years ago. So I coach wrestling. My sons are real good wrestlers. They're waiting to go to college. They're wrestling college. I have a full dance card, and I take care of a dude in a wheelchair all the time. Me. I got to shower this guy and all this other stuff. So if I was to like get tripped up on, heroin or something like that, I would be unfunctionable. It would just not even work out for me. So I'm too busy to waste any time with anything. I'll have a beer or two. I don't mind a glass of whiskey here and there. But like I said, I've never been a addictive personality guy. So like, I don't know. I could probably count on my hand how many times in the last 5 or 6 years that I've gotten past 3 beers in a sitting. So like, it's just not my, ballpark. So talking to you, like, I want to get a good idea of, I can understand from movies and bullshit news stuff, like how that works, that it takes you over. But coming from you, it's a whole nother game because you were inside that. I mean, it essentially ruined your life, right? You did years in prison.
Yeah, I did 10 years. Man, in fact, I was thinking about our conversation, and I'm like 10. It's probably closer to 14.
Wow.
In prison.
What was it for? How did you end up there?
I held up a gas station one time.
Right.
The other time was stolen cars, robbery, all to feed my addiction. But I didn't care. One day I was only out 6 days.
Yeah, right.
6
well,
days.
Life is probably easier. It's got to be easier to score in jail than it is on the street, right?
Well, I mean, no, but it just, I didn't care. I hated my life so much. I didn't care they brought me back from a heroin overdose one time, and I asked them why.
Yeah,
Let me friggin' die.
Yeah, sure. I get it.
One time I was handcuffed to a gurney in Silver Cross, and they didn't find the other bag of heroin in my pocket.
Oh, wow.
And I did it right there, handcuffed to a gurney in the hospital, 20 minutes after they brought me back. And that's why I can say God's had his hand on my life.
Sure.
All this time, and why and how? Because a lot of people that stay drunk, stay high, man, they're running from something. There's something they don't want to face. Addiction it comes from pain, whether it be physical or mental.
Sure.
That's how you become addicted, trying to medicate some sort of pain that you haven't dealt with.
So my friend Tim had the whole run-in with the Catholic priest situation happen in his life. So I don't know if that's where that came from or what.
I'm sure.
Yeah, possibly, right? I don't know. We've never had that conversation. It's always been a situation where I guess I kind of always treat it like, he knew when he was coming out of prison that I was there for him. He wasn't interested, man. He was only interested in trying to find a way to get out of my sight so he could do what he wanted to do, sort of a thing. So, he'd always be like pissed off when we found him and then, bring him back and everything else. And then he would just run off again and then he'd be in prison again. Like it was this thing. It was this thing until, as far as I know, I believe he's out of prison now and he's been out of prison for a couple years now, doing good. So I hope he's doing well. I always liked the guy. There was a lot of people that wrote him off, after a bunch of prison stints. They're like, I can't trust him or whatever like that. But like, if he ever needed anything, I'd be there. I don't have much I could give him, but, I hope he's doing well. But
the thing is, you become two different people.
Yeah.
The guy that got out of prison wasn't the same guy that got high. After he was high, he was a totally different person. He's not that person. And I wasn't that person. My mom used to say it was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Greatest guy when I wasn't getting high. But as soon as I got high, don't leave your car keys and $10 on the table because I'm going to steal your car and take your $10.
Right.
You can be my best friend. I've done it to my best friends.
Right. Yeah, how were they about that? Like, did they forgive you or no?
Oh, yeah. Well, Ronnie Rob's dead. That's one of them. I don't know if you knew Ronnie Rob.
No, I don't think I
They
do.
used to call him Pancake. Anyway, we did a lot of drugs together, and he got caught up in something with drugs and got murdered. I mean,
Oh, wow.
a lot of my friends are dead, and
Yeah,
only by the grace of God, I'm still here.
well, I mean, hopefully, like you live a purposeful life then, and you do something with with the life that you have. Because I mean, you don't know. I don't know if you remember Kelly. I don't want to say her last name, but Kelly D from
Yeah.
school. I heard she just passed away 2 days ago.
Dang.
And I know she had her trouble with drugs and stuff like that, but it wasn't. I don't think it was that. She had just lost her son not that long ago before that, and now she's gone. You never know when. I mean, she's I think a year or two younger than me. I'm class of '89 at Lincoln Way. I don't
Right.
know. What were you? You're I think.
87.
Okay. All right. Okay. Right. All right. So she's younger than me. You're a couple years older than me. But too young to be gone for sure. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
man, you don't look that old. You got the head shaved and that beard,
Hey,
man.
that's
Mine's white.
10 years in prison, 10, 12 years in prison to preserve you if you let it.
Is that right?
Yeah. When you ain't got nothing to worry about, nothing on the street. I had no kids. I had no wife. I had no life other than the dope life.
See,
you
I
just
swear.
fall into the prison lifestyle.
I swear, my sons give me this gray in my beard. I swear.
Hey,
I grow that thing out, man. I look like Odin.
My youngest just turned 7.
Yeah,
I got 6. I got 7, 9, and 11. So I gotta stay young for these kids.
Now, what do you got? Daughters or sons or both?
I got 2 daughters. I got 3 daughters. My oldest is 35. 3 grandbabies, and then I got my started over family.
Yeah, right. So now you said that that your wife had left. Did she come back or?
No, we're divorced.
Okay, all right. Well, sorry to hear that because I know that's a tough. I mean, a person that deals with addiction, I could see how that was thrown back into it because, man, it is. I got divorced and it is fucked up to have someone that you had a life with, you slept next to every night, like go to court and just lie and say shit that was like, what the hell are you talking about? Just to try and get away with some money or whatever they could get, you know what I mean? Sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's fucked up for sure. And mine came right from when I got hurt. Like she was, hit the bricks as soon as I was injured. It was over. So like for me, besides getting divorced, I was learning how to live being a dude busting around in a wheelchair. So like it was, it was a whole nother thing. And for me, like it's always been, I'm hustling a buck constantly. You know what I mean? I'm running around trying to sell construction jobs, trying to sell real estate, and then also trying to keep busy with other stuff. Like I teach myself German in the wintertime because I got time on my hands because real estate and construction slow down a little bit in the winter. And then, like my boys right now got the mats in the garage. They're working out, training because next college season, they're back at school and they're going to be wrestling in the NCAA. So, we keep super busy. I can imagine that if I didn't keep busy, I think I would do some drugs if I thought that I could function on them. Like I see people that, I know it's fucked up to say to a guy that's dealing with addiction, but I see people that are highly functioning potheads and they give me pot all the time. Like, I'm like, dude, I can't, my job, it doesn't seem to have any hours. I'm self-employed all the time. It doesn't have any hours. People call me at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night about real estate stuff. And I can't be stoned because I sell a job then. And then I do this too. So like, we'll do this podcast and, most of my podcasts are a couple hours, 3 hours long. And then I got to go in and do all the editing and the downloading and all that other stuff. And then I got an audio version that I send over and upload to another site and everything else. And I get the podcast out there. I don't know. Like I've had people on the podcast that got stoned while they were on the podcast.
Oh yeah.
They were perfectly fine. They were having a conversation, doing great. I've been stoned where I can't talk.
I have to.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Right. But, so, and I mean, like, I was talking to my sons, they're 19. I'm like, dude, pot is not what pot was when I was a kid. I mean, there were times where someone had some pot, we smoked it, and I'm like, I don't think that was pot, dude.
Right.
I don't think that, I don't feel anything at all from that. And now someone hands me a vape pen, I hit that thing once, and I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, I'm totally screwed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, drugs are a completely different thing now. But I don't know. I don't know how somebody gets it wired to, when you're in your situation, I understand, like, you just don't give a shit about anything, so it doesn't matter. My problem is life is hard for me. It's hard. Every morning I got a wrestling match to get dressed, and then I got to get up. I got to go to work. I've never had a food stamp in my life. I mean, I'm a quadriplegic, and I've always paid my way. So I just don't know how I'd get my next meal if I, you know what I mean? If I fucked up, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, so when you were in that situation, didn't you ever worry about what the fuck you're going to do? Like how you're going to, fend for yourself? No, right? Just didn't took precedent, huh?
No,
Right.
I didn't care if I lived or died. So why would I care whether I ate or slept?
So I can understand that a little bit because this injury thing, life is hard. It's very difficult. And it's different than anyone thinks it is. I've had people look at me and go, so what? You got to sit. And I'm like, yeah, that's really not what's going on. Like I don't have control of my bowels. I don't have control of my bladder. All this other shit goes on. And I'm in pain so that's why people drop me off drugs is because I'm in pain all the time. So I don't take anything. I don't even take a Advil, nothing. Just because I don't want to be taking that stuff. But so they're like, hey, just take some of these edibles and then you'll sleep better and stuff like that. And I take them and I don't sleep better. Like I'm stoned, so like it's not helping me sleep. It just for me it just doesn't work. So it's just not my thing. Maybe I'm lucky that way. I don't know, but they drop that stuff off. Like I could take it if I want to, but when you said like you didn't care if you lived or died, there are definitely times in my life where I'm like, if I go out, like I just don't want to go out in an embarrassing way. I got stuck I got a lift on my van and I got trapped in the thing over the summer and it was like 100 degrees outside. And I'm like, oh shit, I do not want to go out this way. Come on. Like, can I at least go out and fight or something? Can something happen? Can I bite on someone's ankle or something? Can I go out that way? Because I don't want to do this thing where I just overheat in a car and die. The one time my lift started smoking and I'm like, I don't want to light on fire either. So like, that's not I want to go out. But like when I broke my neck and they wheeled me into the hospital, I said something to the nurse or the doctor and I'm like, listen, if you can't put me back together again, I'm okay. Like I lived a good life. I had fun. You just let me go. And she's like, looked at me and I'm like, I'm serious. Like, I'm not upset about it. And I'm like that, we're all going to go someday. Like, I don't ever have a problem with dying. But if I set myself on a path, like now you're set on a path to live, you got to worry about like how you're going to pay for the next thing and how you're going to take care of your kids and like all that other stuff, right? Or is it just that it fight for addiction all the time?
Dude, it's just now is so much different. I don't worry too much about nothing because I know he's going to take care of me. Scripture says that we're worth more than the bird of the air, the flower of the field.
Yep. Matthew.
I mean, you said you studied, you know it.
Yep. So, right. So no sense worrying. The bird in the tree doesn't worry. Right. I got it.
But I mean, so if that's where my faith lies, I have no worry. See, we say fear, even what if equals fear? What if I lose my job? Oh, fearful response. What if my electricity, what if I can't see my kids? What if this, what if that? It's all fear-based. But even if I lose my job, I know my God will take care of me. And he'll give me a better job. Or he'll give me one that's going to suffice for what I need. I might have to cut some things out of my life, luxuries. But I know I'll have a place to live. I'll have some food to eat. I mean, I really don't. And I when I started drinking 2 years ago, I lost my job.
Right.
I got fired. I was drunk on the job, been drunk. Anyway, I lost my job. 9 months, almost a year to the day, my boss hired me back.
Nice.
I took a $2 an hour pay cut to come back and get my job back. I started on the bottom again. In the last 6 months, I've got a $5 an hour raise. I've got 2 promotions, and it's only because he can see Jesus Christ in me. And he's not a believer. But
Okay, all right. So now what do you do? What's the work?
I'm a shop manager for a waste company.
Okay, yeah, good gig.
It's a small, independently owned. It's not Waste Management or Waste Connections, one of the big guys. We're a small company. We got 10 trucks, but that's relatively small.
Sure.
And this week's been tough. COVID's hard on the trash industry, and Christmas is hard on the trash industry. Weather gets cold, people quit paying their bill and throw their trash in the garage till spring.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Well, I mean,
honestly, I thought so. I always had this weird metaphor. I owned a construction company for years, and certain kinds of construction are easy. It's so backwards from what people think. Like generally, everything is backwards from what people think, right? Like if so there's been a bunch of movies that have been made about people that were addicted. And if you watch one of those movies and you're someone that's been in that situation, I would bet that you find them stupid or wrong or that kind of thing. When I see a movie with a guy in a wheelchair, I'm like, this is not, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. This is
right.
not how it goes. None of that is even remotely correct. Like the guy's in the wrong kind of chair. That like everything's just a mess.
Right.
So like the one I would point to would be the Born on the 4th of July, the Tom Cruise one. Like he just goes through all these things that like are they're just nonsense. It's just like this completely whacked out emotional response to things that goes on for what seems like years and years. This guy just never gets over the fact that he's in a wheelchair, which is complete bullshit. I was, and I mean everybody's different. I know a bunch of people in chairs. Most people are over it within 6-7 months. They're like, fuck it, this is where I'm at. I better figure out what I got to do. Or they give up. They just go, oh, screw it. I'll just live in my mom's house and I'll do whatever. That ain't me. I couldn't do that. But for me, it was probably like about 3 months. And I'm like, all right, that's forward. That's where I'm going. I got to do that. And I don't care about anything else. And everybody around me always thinks that like, and their heart's in the right place. I love them to death for it. But they'll send me links like, you got to go to Bosnia and you could get this operation. And I'm like, this is not something that's on my mind, guys. I'm worried about my next paycheck. I'm worried about, will my sons train hard enough to win the matches they have to? Like, I got other things to worry about, guys. If there is a truly situation where they figure out how to repair a guy that's got a broken neck, I'm sure I'm going to hear about it and I'll go look into it then. But right now I'm too busy doing what I'm doing. So I'm sure there's a bunch of misinformation addiction-wise. And the reason I love the podcast thing is because I can have a in-depth, long-form conversation with somebody about what that goes, because it seems like today more than ever, more people are dealing with that. Either they're dealing with it with themselves or they're dealing with it with a loved one or something like that. Like my buddy that lost his son, it broke my heart. I couldn't believe it. Like this guy, I love him. I think he's a terrific guy. I could hang out with him for days. And like, we don't agree on that much, like politically. And like, you've seen my political stuff on I'm a left-wing liberal guy. I guess I'm a hybrid weird guy, because I'm like, I got all kinds of guns and all that kind of stuff, but I don't understand why I can't want to house and feed the poor, but also want to go hunting. It doesn't, like, those two things don't seem to be incompatible to me. So that's what I do. It also doesn't, like, everybody wants to put everyone in a box. I guarantee you that I work harder than anybody I know. I mean, I probably sleep 6 hours a day, and then I'm busting my ass. I mean, I spent 2 hours in the gym today lifting weights. So it's all about work for me all the time. But like certain Republican friends I have would think that I'm, I don't know, some guy that's like collecting food stamps and like, you know, on welfare doing, I've never done any of that. And I broke my fucking neck. Like I was, you know, immediate, like, how do I get my own pants on me? Because I got to go to work. So I don't fit in a box like that. Like I'm certainly, socially liberal. Like I don't, you're a guy that's, heavy into Christ, but does that mean you're a guy that is aggravated with homosexuals or don't think they should be able to be married or anything? Because for me, it's live and let live, man. If that's what you want to do, do that. I have no interest in being a gay guy, so you know, knock your socks off. It doesn't infringe on me. It doesn't hurt me. So as long as you're not touching children or doing anything screwed up, I got no problem with it. Like that's your.
I mean, do you call yourself a Christian?
I don't.
I mean,
no, I don't.
I'm saying for say a lesbian couple, do they claim Christ as your savior?
Okay, I have a priest who I've tried to get on. I'm trying to get a hold again on the podcast. He's a homosexual and he's a priest. So I would venture to guess that he considers himself a Christian, but he's got a partner that's a male. And so, I mean, he's heavily invested in Christ. It's what he does. And he's homosexual.
How can you, I mean, for me, it's how can you be okay with something that the Bible preaches against and call yourself a child of God? Because you're actively, see, there's a difference between being sin and actively pursuing sin. Okay, so if I'm going to sit there and watch porn all day and I know it's wrong,
yeah,
I mean, so I'm okay. The Bible says that homosexual is wrong. Homosexuality is wrong. It blatantly says man should not lay with man, women should not lay with women. Yep. The Bible says it, I didn't, right?
Yep.
So if I'm gonna preach the word of Christ, I gotta preach the whole word. I can't pick.
I guess the only way that I would lay that out would be that, like, my mom, I love her to death. She's a Jehovah's Witness. She's very devout. She's at church 3 times a week. She knows her scripture. She's always got her nose in a Bible. It's actually very difficult to have a conversation with her because the answer to every question is Jesus. And it's like, all right, listen, I asked you how you want your eggs. Calm down, all right? I'm not, Jesus didn't have any part in this. Can you just tell me if you want them scrambled or fried? Right. So it's, she's very, very, but my mom also, she's a compulsive liar. If my mom is late for something, she will tell you it was a construction traffic jam. She will make every excuse in the world, and she lies about things that somebody's looking at her and go, Mom, I don't care. Right. There's no reason for you to lie about this, but she does that. So my mom, for certain, lies more than this guy has sex with his partner. So how do you balance that out? She's not pursuing it. It's just honestly, I don't know. It's inherent or something. But my mom, first off, she's never been on time for anything. And she's always lied about everything too. So like, it's just like, and I remember seeing it as a kid. And it bothered me so much because we would like be on our way somewhere and I'm in the car with her. There was no traffic jam. We were just late. And she would get there and tell the person that we were stuck by a bridge or she got pulled over or whatever. And I would just have to be like, she's just lying. So, I think everybody that even claims to be a Christian has their faults. They lie. They do things that aren't Christ-like. And so does this guy, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, I'm not saying that they're not getting into heaven. I'm just saying if you are going to preach the word of God, you need to try to live by it.
I hear you, right? So that's why I want to get him on the podcast because I really want to hear. And the reason I even was hooked up with the guy was I had one of his flock was on the podcast. Bill Mosier. I don't know if you remember the teacher, Mr. Mosier, but he was on the podcast and he was like, hey, I guess he's a terrific speaker, this priest. Bill is heterosexual, been married for a very long time, but he's inspired by this guy in a big way. So he's like, you got to talk to him. He's spectacular preacher. He's helped a lot of people, and he's homosexual. So like, to me, it's certainly something that's an enigma, right? Like, but I said something to Bill after the podcast. I'm like, so how do you, the conversation we just had, how do you square that? How do you square a guy who is actively living a lifestyle that the Bible says you shouldn't, but he's also head of the church? How do you do that? And right. I mean, he explained to me the same way I just said, every person that's a Christian except for Christ has their faults. They lie. They do it daily. There's something that you do that is not, I mean, you have studied extensively. If you were seriously to go Old Testament and follow all the rules, I don't think I could go a couple hours without breaking something.
No, you couldn't. That's why Christ came.
Right, the new management. Right.
He came. I come to fulfill the law, not uphold the law.
Right.
Because you cannot. Because the law was set down as a burden to the people. And the only people that could uphold it was the Sadducees and the Pharisees. Because you know why? Because those were the only people that had nothing else to do all day but fulfill these laws.
Right.
That was their only job. And then to take your little dove and go sacrifice it for your sin that you're bringing to me.
Yeah, right.
When
so
Jesus
we stopped the right. So Christ stopped the sacrifices.
The veil's torn.
Right.
I got free access to God through Jesus Christ now. I don't have to take it to the priest.
Right. So the Catholic thing is the old way. Right. I got you. So, but in that situation, you daily do things wrong. And then so I've had times in my life where I did something that I was like, I feel bad about that. And, I'm not a religious guy, but there are times where I'm like, hey, I don't know who I'm talking to, but, it's on my heart that I feel bad about this and that I shouldn't have done it this way. Tomorrow I'm going to try and make that right or whatever I can do. And like, we have times where in construction where I'm with my sons where it would be easy to cheat somebody or, there's extra material or whatever like that. And I don't. And I make sure my sons, and we're not, not in the name of Christ or anything like that. I just say to them, I go, hey, look, there's $600 worth of material here that's going back. You guys understand they're going to get that money back and everything else. And the people are super surprised. You know what I mean? That's what's going on, because most guys would just pocket that money and be like, well, that's how it goes. So I make sure that they see me being honest and doing an honest job and all that other stuff, because it's important to me that they have a role model that does that sort of thing. And I sometimes I even feel like, because I have studied scripture quite a bit, I mean, when I first got paralyzed, I had a lot of time on my hands. So I really did a lot of reading and went to all the classes and did all the homework and everything else. And it was BSF. I don't know if you're ever familiar with that, but it's a Bible study fellowship. Mm-hmm. The way it's structured, it was honestly terrific. So you go to the church, you meet up, you break into groups of 12 guys, you have a leader in the group, and then you discuss the lecture from the week before. So it's this whole section of the Bible that you're going to read. It's really not much, but the way that we break it down is you break down everything, and then you have a lecture that evening about that, and they go in depth on the culture of the civilization at the time. So you can understand things like, why did he take his shoes off before he went to the tent, and all these things that you wouldn't understand if you just read it on your own. And then they send you home with probably about 2 hours, solid 2 hours of homework that you have to look everything up scripture wise. You have to, write out your answers, provide scripture to back up the answers and everything else. Part of the time you're at the class, you're in the group and you're having a discussion. And it's a situation where it's like whatever Jesus puts on your heart, no wrong answers. You know what I mean? Like whatever and it's all guys. So you just have, no distractions either, sort of a thing. Now, in that group, you become pretty friendly with the group of 12 guys that are there. So if a guy doesn't show up, you got his phone number. You start calling him, hey man, where you at? Like what's going on? Why aren't you at study and stuff like that? And, guys go through stuff. One guy, his daughter came out as homosexual, and he just couldn't face us and everything else. I'm like, guy, what are you going to do? And I go, the worst thing you can do is disown your daughter. I go, I know you're embarrassed and all this other stuff, but I go, I got 2 sons and a daughter. There is no chance that if someone came to me and said, Dad, I think I'm homosexual, I'd be like, well, let's figure out if you really are, or what's going on with you or what like that. And then, I don't know, let's try and get you through life as best we can, because what I can't square with the whole thing is there's nothing. If someone said, okay, I've got your son here and I'm going to have kidnapped him and I'm going to kill him if you don't live as a homosexual. I can do homosexual acts, but I can't be a homosexual because I'm not. I don't look at a guy. I mean, I know when a guy's good looking, I'm like, hey, that's a good looking guy. He's all clean. He's got his stuff together, whatever like that. But I'm never attracted to him. It's just not my thing, right? Like it doesn't do it for me. I just don't. I've had guys that were gay hit on me, and I'm like, guy, like.
Here's the thing.
No chance.
So that's how kind of the gospel's centered is as you say, take it as our children. I can love you and not be okay with something you do, though.
Sure, absolutely, right.
So when we're talking about homosexual in the church, I'm glad you're there. I want you there.
That's where I was going.
You regardless.
That's where I was going. Right.
The church is just a building where we come. The church is the body of believers together. I'll love you regardless, but don't think that I'm going to say, pat you on the back and say, I believe in what you're doing. It's okay. Because I don't. That's like saying, for my mom to say, I love you, son, but it's okay. Here's $40. Go do some heroin.
No, right.
God loves us in spite of our sin.
Now, okay, so wait a minute, though. I can't square that so much, because what if the heroin obviously is like physically bad for you as far as that goes, right? Now, besides like spiritually being bad for you, if a guy is in a homosexual relationship, it's monogamous. Both of them are faithful to each other. They're in love. There are homosexual relationships that have gone 50 years where the couple stayed together.
I got cousins.
I'm just saying, there's nothing that is physically harming them by being homosexual. They're in a relationship that, like, this priest has a partner. They're married or whatever they are. They're living their best Christian life, except for this one. I mean, for all I know, maybe he doesn't lie at all.
I mean,
I don't know. You know what I mean? Like maybe once, I mean, I know that there's scripture in the Bible that doesn't weigh sins, right? Like one sin doesn't weigh more than another sin.
They're all the same.
Right. So but it does seem, to a layman, it does seem more egregious to be a homosexual than it does to lie to somebody.
Agree. But why though? Because the world says so. See,
yeah, right.
You were talking about your business and returning the money and stuff. See, you have integrity. The integrity.
And I just want to live by a code.
Well, you got morals and you got integrity, because nobody would have known but you.
No. No one would have known. There was no way they would have known.
As a Christian, that's my integrity. I could get off this podcast and run to the liquor store and go get some beer or some vodka and drink it, and nobody's going to know but me. But
so now that's a whole other right. That's a whole other facet of. So when I was in that study, it was the first time that I was made aware that, so there was a decent percentage of the population of men that were at the study that were dealing with addiction. And like, there was nothing that we could do. So we would have, one night a week, the study went on, and then, the homework was there for the next week and everything else. But one night a month, we would have a social after the class. So we would go out and get a piece of pie and a cup of coffee. And like, you weren't, and it was never a thing I wanted to do anyway, but you weren't allowed to like go grab a beer. Like, that was not a thing. And the reason you weren't allowed to do that was not because I couldn't have a beer, but because it would be a problem for other brothers that
being a stumbling block.
Right. So
Right.
we didn't deal with any of that. And then I never like had drinks with anybody that none of those guys, because of that stuff. Even if it was me and another guy that don't have that issue, we just didn't do that. So like, you didn't drink. The guy who was running the show over there, he said, like, he goes, personally, like, there isn't a biblical problem with you having a glass of wine.
There's not.
It's the support of your other brothers that you're trying to do, which that sounds awesome for somebody that's in your situation. If everybody around you, because it's got to be hard for you if there's no way you could just hang with a bunch of drug addicts.
No.
Right. Okay.
No. Well, I mean, look, Jesus didn't send out the disciples by themselves. They always went out with two.
Okay.
Brothers build each other up, and they hold each other accountable. Me, I do two Bible studies a week online. Did one before our podcast right here, and I'll do one tomorrow night. Then I do a small group where we meet together as a church body, and we eat together, and we get into the scriptures together as a family. Because as a smaller family, we call them missional communities or cell families. And the cell family is such a fitting term because many cells make up the body. So many cells make up the body of Christ. Okay. So we come together as cell groups because it's easier for us to take care of 10 or 12 people versus 200 or 300 that's in your church.
Sure.
There's no way that you can meet every need of every member of that church. But if they break up into groups of 10, every need could be met because it's met on a smaller level.
Yeah, that's the same thing we did with the BSF. It was groups of 12 or
right.
However the math broke out. It wasn't 12 on purpose, but we broke down into groups about that size, and it did make it far more personal, and it made it that you didn't want to let down. Like, I tried never to miss. And I mean, my life was a mess as far as like the whole paralyzed guy thing and everything, because it was early on in that situation. So there was definitely, like, when I was going to that 4 years of study, the first 2 years I didn't have a car. So like, somebody was picking me up and taking me to that, another brother that was there, not a guy that was in my group or something, but he was always there to pick me up and take me. And then for me, like, I love to have conversations. I really do. I love to, my theory on the general public is that we're all pretty fucking stupid. Together, we're all collectively dumb, but everybody's got something that they know something about, whether it's by force or not. Like, I know plenty about being a guy in a wheelchair because I'm here. I'm a guy in a wheelchair. You know plenty about a guy that dealt with addiction because that's the guy that you had to be. So then you know those things. And then, people have hobbies that they get into stuff and they know stuff. So I like to learn what they know, about that thing, because I can never walk in your shoes, right? I can never be you. I mean, I don't want to be you. Like, that sounds like it's a tough situation. There's got to be tons of bridges that you burn that you could never get back because of that situation, right?
I ain't had a driver's license in 25 years.
Right. So
I've done 14 years in prison. I got a arrest record so long, I can't get a job. I'm 51 years old. If my boss didn't hire me back, it would have been a tough road for me to get a job.
Yeah, right.
I don't drive.
How do you feel about that sort of situation? Like, you paid your, you guys fall into a weird category because you could always fall back into addiction and then you become this other thing. It's like you said, a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation. But like, I'm always like, I feel that like if somebody got arrested and they did 2 years in prison for something that they did, and they did those 2 years in prison, that they should come out as a full member of society, and they should be able to, like, if we're trying to put you in a rehab situation where we're rehabilitating you from crime, from addiction, from whatever it is, how can I make you come out and not be a full-blown citizen where you can get a job, where that's not held against you, where you can, get a driver's license? Like, if you can't, I mean, to vote and all these other things, are you in Illinois, or no, you're not, right? You're
In Missouri.
Missouri, right? Okay, I knew that, right?
I got hurt in a stolen car.
So how is Missouri with that stuff? Can you vote
Yeah, I can vote. And anybody can vote once they're off parole.
in Missouri? Right.
In Illinois, too.
No, in Illinois too, but Florida just passed that thing where before they passed the law, you couldn't. If you were a felon, you couldn't vote. There's no voting for you. They passed a law that said that you were reenfranchised, that you could, but then the Republican governor passed some other executive order that said you had to pay all your fines and everything else before you could, which I personally think is bullshit. Not because you got to pay those fines. I want you to pay those fines, but I also want you to be rehabilitated, and I want you to be a full-blown piece of society and vote and be a part of what we're doing, because I think that promotes you to be a better person in society.
There's not, there's not enough support for guys coming out of prison. You're already labeled a felon for the rest of your life.
Right.
You got to check that box on that application.
Right.
And if you don't, if you get the job 3 years, they look into it. Oh, you're a felon. You're fired. Okay. So it is very, very hard. I can't get a license because I can't afford to get a lawyer to jump through the hoops in Illinois to get my license back.
Got it.
It's been 25 years. I mean, and I don't even live in your state no more. And I've paid all my fines. But you know what? They want more money. They want more money to go in front of the Secretary of State, which you're going to lose unless you have an attorney.
Right.
And when I've already tried this once to do it on my own, got rejected. I can't travel to Illinois every couple months to go through these hearings and have them rejected.
Right.
On the other hand, I can't afford to give my lawyer $7,000 for her to take the case. So what am I doing? I'm riding a scooter.
Yeah. Hey, more power to you, man. If whatever you got to do to get to work, to do whatever you got to do. And I agree 100%. There should be some sort of a program where you can't, because they've got you in a situation where you can't get a job. You're like in a catch-21. I can't get the job, so I can't make the money, so I can pay the thing, so I can get the license, so I can get the job. So what do you want me to do? If you weren't a guy dealing with addiction, you could look at life and be like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll just get a gun, rob somebody again. Then they'll put me back in jail, and then I'll get 3 hots and a cot.
Right.
I don't have to deal with this problem that I'm going to have out in the street.
Free medical, free dental, free whatever.
Right. Well, I mean, that's another conversation that, I would have with you. Our prison system, from what I've read, I've been in jail for the weekend, fighting and bullshit like that, but I've never been in prison. But our prison system's completely screwed up.
Yeah.
And then add in the fact that we do this. Some states have gone to a private prison system.
That's what I was just gonna say.
That is completely,
people are commercializing it.
Right. There's people that own judges, so they'll put more people in prison so that they got more customers. Yep. This doesn't make any sense at all.
No.
And then if you look at, I think a lot of people don't want to, and I don't want to offend anybody, especially the rah-rah, America's the best crowd, which I don't know what they're talking about, because we're not the best at much. We're not the best at education. We're the worst at prison. We're really in a bad spot. I look at a lot of guys that are in your situation that are dealing with the addiction thing, and I'm like, man, something is systematically wrong with the system that we're coming out of, to produce so many guys that are dealing with those situations. Because when you were in prison, you were run of the mill, man. You were probably all kinds of guys that were exactly in your same situation, that were dealing with the exact same. I mean, most of the guys I know that had real big time run-ins with the law, it was over addiction. Like, that's what they were doing. One of my friends, Chris Sanders, he was robbing.
My friend too, pharmacy.
Right.
Yep.
Because he was, and his situation was, I mean, he was a guy that did some drugs and stuff when we were kids, but like he got in an accident at work or car accident or something.
Broke his back or something too.
Yeah, got hooked up with some opioids and then could not shake that shit. So he was robbing pharmacies to try and get more opioids so he could, do that. He wasn't hitting the cash register. He wasn't looking for money. He was looking for drugs because they cut him off.
Yeah.
So, like, we have a way screwed up system that is producing this problem that we have, and we're not fixing it. So, the privatization is a big problem. And for me, so that's where, like, I don't fit in a box, right? Like, I voted for George W. Bush the first time he ran, because when I listened to him, I said, yeah, I like what that guy's saying. I wasn't really an Al Gore guy, so I voted for that guy. If someone would have caught me right then and said, well, who'd you vote for? And I told them, I guess I'd be a Republican because I voted for that guy. But I voted for Obama twice after that guy. And part of the reason was, I voted for John Kerry also. But part of the reason that I was off of the George Bush situation was I broke my neck, and George Bush decided that his religious belief was to defund stem cell research. And I broke my neck in 2003. He was running for president in 2004. And I'm like, hey, fuck you, dude. This is the only thing that's going to undo this situation that I got going on. And you're not trying to shut down fertility clinics. They're doing the exact same thing at a fertility clinic that I'm trying to get done with stem cells in my neck. So, like, I don't think that I'm fine with everybody having their religion. I just don't want it to govern the entire country. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't believe that if we were a population that was mostly Buddhist, I'd feel the exact same way about a Buddhist telling me that there has to be laws and money spent on things that aren't Buddhist. Like, listen, I'm not a Buddhist, so that shouldn't pertain to me.
Let me grab a drink real quick.
Go, man, go.
The prison system, how is a guy supposed to come out with nothing, with a bunch of fines to pay,
yeah,
with no job, and got to report it as parole agent once a week?
Right.
So you want him to have a job, and he's got to go tell his boss, but I can't work Tuesdays, or I have to get off at noon, or they can call and make me come in and drop, and I got to be there within 2 hours. So, but these are all things that you're going to have to put up with if you hire me.
Right. Besides the fact that I'm trouble. You know what I mean? I could be a guy that's trouble, right? Like, I mean, I could be in between being in prison.
So which way am I going to go? I'll go. I need a couch for my house. I just got my apartment. I just got my job. Things are going good. You come home to an empty shell. Nobody's there. You ain't got a TV to watch. You're sitting on a milk crate, and you're going, man, this sucks. Prison was better than this.
Yeah, right.
I had my TV. Right. I didn't have to do my own laundry. I didn't have to cook. Or, hey, man, I'll go hook up my buddy, and he'll give me a couple sacks of sling, and I'll come up real quick, and I'll get back to where I need to be, and life will be better. Come on, man. That's just a lie to tell yourself that you're going to go get high.
Well, that's another problem with the whole prison system is you take a bunch of guys and you put them together, and they just hatch ideas. I mean, there's got to be a bunch of guys in prison that are like working on, what are we going to do when we get out of here? I'm going to score big. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to get caught this time. Right.
I've learned what I did wrong.
Oh, you know what? And I'm sure that they have.
Oh
I'm sure
yeah.
that you go to prison and you learn how to be a slicker criminal for
Oh yeah.
sure.
Oh
Right.
yeah.
So
I've learned a lot in prison.
yeah. Oh, I can't even imagine. I mean, that is like so. Right. So you've got a bunch of like. I watched a movie like our gym that's set up, and we spent a lot of time in the gym. I'm a gym rat, right? So like if I have the
Oh
TV in
my.
the gym, right? If I have a TV in the gym, that means I can say, oh, look at that cutie.
Yeah.
I can spend 3-4 hours in the gym just putzing around, right? Just doing different stuff. There's a movie on, I'll watch the movie while I lift weights. And in the wintertime with construction, I always stayed in the gym because it kept me fit enough to go back to construction in the spring and not feel bad, not be injured and all this other stuff.
Right.
So, but like there are a bunch of movies I can watch. If I watch a movie with a contractor or a carpenter in it, I'm like, oh God, man, look at that guy Saw. That's not even that. That was not what I would use for that. Like it's all just a joke. And then obviously the wheelchair stuff. And you got a bunch of movies. There's a gazillion prison movies that you have to watch and be like, oh hell no, that is not how. Like if you watch Shawshank Redemption, does that seem realistic or no?
No.
No.
How about Blood In, Blood Out? You ever seen that one?
No, I've never seen that.
It's a prison movie and it's a gang movie. And it's just like, man, there ain't no way.
Nah.
I mean,
So okay, so what would be an authentic one?
I couldn't even say right now. I'm not a big TV guy.
No, but so I mean, nothing that you saw that there's been a bunch of movies on addiction, like what's it?
Like Interventions is about the only thing that you want to watch something real. Watch some Intervention when you're seeing some people shoot some dope.
Yeah,
and that'd make my stomach still cringe.
So, right, how is that for you? Like, so can you watch that and not want to go do that?
No, I don't want to go do it. It really kind of upsets me of how much of my life that I wasted with a needle in my arm, or a crack pipe in my mouth, or too drunk to do anything, And
sure.
And it's all, like I say, man, it's all about your past and things that you haven't dealt with, and it's all about a lot of it's on how you thought you should have been treated, or what you thought you deserved that you didn't get.
Okay, so here's a question: when you were in prison, did you learn how to work out better?
I worked out the whole time, played handball.
Oh, okay, all right. I would just think that
weights.
when you're because I mean I see these pansy ass bitches who the minute we had the shutdown, they're like boo-hoo crying that they can't go to spin class or whatever the hell they're gonna do. At that, and I'm like, come on, man. There's a million ways that you could work out that you don't need anything. Like you can do all kinds of body workouts that are
plyometrics. We did it with towels. We did water bags.
Right.
We've done. I mean, just me and you with a towel doing curls, tricep extensions, just everything you learn. Go to the library, read lots of magazines on lifting and nutrients, and I spent a lot of time doing that.
Yeah, right.
I wasn't a big troublemaker in prison. I might have been in 2 fights the whole time out of 12 years.
Yeah.
I believe that I was done locked behind one door. I didn't want to go get locked behind a couple more. You know what I mean?
Sure,
I like getting out, being able to go to the gym, being able to go to the handball court, be able to go to work, be able to shower every day.
Like as far as that goes, though, it seems to me that there should be more training. It's like this weird edge they got to walk, right? You got to walk this edge where you're trying to train guys for a job. So when they get out of here, like a guy could walk out as a full-blown carpenter or a welder or, whatever he could be trained in to do. But you also can't do the thing where like that's a slippery slope because immediately they start doing slave labor where these guys are, building houses and they're not making any money. And the guy who's the warden's making all the damn money off the slave labor sort of situation. And I don't think that's right either.
Like I said, when I had to let those guys off today or last week, I explained to them, hey, if this happened 2 months ago, you wouldn't have your CDL that we paid to go get you, that we trained you to go get, that we let you drive our truck to go take the test. Yeah, you're out of a job now, but you got something out of it.
Right.
You got a CDL license. Now you can get a license anywhere. And that's how, see, at John 3:16, you work all day. John 16, they build their own houses, they do their own plumbing, they do their own concrete. Everything is self-sufficient. At that camp, they have an auto body shop, they have a mechanic shop. People donate cars. We rebuild them from the frame up. And then they auction them off. And that's one of the ways that, but these guys are learning something that they may have never done before. A lot of guys in addiction have never worked a job.
Well, the couple people that I knew, I'll tell you what, man, boy, they had a hard time. Even guys that were just alcoholics, they had a hard time going to work, man. Like I live with a couple of them, and they'd be like, just tell them I'll be there tomorrow or whatever like that. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm not telling them anything. You tell them, you got to go to work. So like, they were just hungover so bad, or in bad shape, as far as like couldn't go to work, sort of a deal. So, yeah, they're just, for me, like they're from a guy on the outside. There needs to be. I've done a little bit of reading on the prison systems and even the rehabilitation systems for addiction in other countries. And it seems like there's plenty of information out there on those systems, and we just don't do it. We treat people that are addicted like they're this dirty, terrible, low life. There's some problem with you that you're addicted to stuff. And it's most of it seems to be either some hurt that you took on, maybe, or, like I said, my buddy with the priest or something like that, or some situation you were put into that you just, the one guy got hurt in a car accident, got on the opioids, and it's annoying that made him feel good. So that's what he did. And he was pretty much strung out all the time. So there's gotta be a way, like, they have something, I think it was in Switzerland or Norway, where they did a situation with rats, or it was either rats or monkeys. I think it was rats. And they had they had the cage where they put the rat in there, and then they gave them the water and the food and the cocaine drip.
They kept picking the cocaine.
And they kept doing the cocaine, right? But they did another test where they put a rat not in just a cage, like you were talking about your house with no couch and
right.
You're sitting on a milk crate. That's what this rat is doing in this cage. So nothing's in there to make him happy, right? Well, they put the rat in rat paradise, where he's got all his favorite foods. He can have plenty of sex with a bunch of girl rats. He's got toys that keep his brain, going on different shit and everything else. And they put the food in there, and they put the cocaine in there, and they put the water in there. And the rat doesn't get addicted to the cocaine because he's got things that are fulfilling him throughout his whole cage.
Yeah,
so it has something to do with the cage you're in. You know what I mean? So like, there's so many people. I mean, we were as a society goes, where'd you grow up? New Lenox or Mokina? Or New Lenox, right? I'm from Frankfurt. So we grew up in a pretty affluent area. I mean, I was from Frankfurt Square. We didn't have no money, but
right.
we still had a good school to go to. There was plenty of Little League baseball to play. There were friends. Somebody always had a basketball or a football. We could go do these things. There's kids that grow up in the ghetto that, you're going to get shot if you go here, you go there, or, you might as well just stay inside your little shitty place to live and everything else. And then, yes, some of the only options are you can go work for $8 an hour and flip burgers, or you can go sling some rock and you can make way more money doing that. So it's the situation that you're in.
I agree.
We got to fix this thing from the bottom up, not give them a place to live or get some shitty other thing like that. It seems like we're doing it all wrong. And I can't imagine, I'm an idiot. I can't imagine that I can understand that. And the people that run the prison system can't understand that.
It's about the dollar.
Yeah,
right.
It
ain't about the people.
Right.
And unfortunately, that's how I view the church. a lot today with a lot of pastors looking to fill the seats instead of filling the heavens.
Oh,
Because
I'm sure, man. That's a moneymaker, man. Those
yeah,
I mean, I don't know how you feel about like a Joel Osteen or those guys, but those guys
I don't consider him. I don't consider him a pastor. I consider him a great motivational speaker.
do you? Yeah.
Great, great prosperity preaching, or it gets you fired up. When you base your decisions off emotion, they're going to be wrong 99% of the time, and that's what a lot of preachers do is try to get you fired up. Then the plate comes around.
Yeah.
And then, but where are they at when your daughter gets sick and passes away? Where are they at when your wife has a car accident and she's in the hospital? Do they even call or say anything?
Right.
No, because it's about the people filling the plate. It's just, I'm sorry. We talked about loving someone, but not being okay with what they do. And
Sure.
a lot of people that when you step into that leadership role, Scripture says that you'll be held to another accountability. You know that.
Yeah.
So as a leader, whether you be a government official or you be a church official, I believe 100% you're going to be held differently, accountable when we all answer.
Sure.
I mean, you've stepped into that role. You better do your best to fulfill it. And these guys know what they're doing.
I honestly, I think some of them, I mean, I know for a fact some of them end up getting caught, getting on a plane. They've got a bunch of drugs on them. They've got to rent a boy carrying their luggage. They're got male prostitutes. They're doing all kinds of crazy shit and everything else. I mean, what was the Swagger guy when we were kids that like got caught with the hookers and all that other stuff, and he's crying on TV and the whole thing. They're absolutely charlatans. They're absolutely there just to try and fill the plate. They have no belief in what they're selling, an invisible product that they're great motivational speakers, like you're saying, but they're not spiritual people. They don't believe that there's anybody to answer to, like you're saying. They believe that this is a grift.
They are. What I mean? Joel Osteen said, I mean, as a Christian, I can only preach what I believe. Joel Osteen said there's more than one way to get to heaven. If you're a Christian, Scripture says there's only one way to get to heaven, and that's through Jesus Christ.
Well, Scripture also says that, like, so some of that stuff. So I studied, like, and I was really into it. Like, I'll tell you what, I enjoyed it. I really did. I enjoyed the brothers. I enjoyed the people. I enjoyed having conversations with people. I also enjoyed questioning some of the things that were said also, right? And the guy that was the main lecture guy when I started the study, man, he was outstanding. He was an incredible speaker. And I personally liked the guy. When we talked about other things that were outside of that too, I thought he was a great family man. He was a great man, is what I thought. But he was also worth about $140 million. That was his net worth, because he owned a huge food packing plant. And I don't begrudge him the money, but if you truly read the Bible and the guy's main focus was to get to the kingdom of heaven, he's going to have to give that up somehow, because it's harder for a man to reach the kingdom, a rich man to reach the kingdom of heaven than a camel to go through the eye of a needle.
Right.
So, and you know how he squared that with me? I got to remember how he squared that, but he squared that in a way that I was like, oh, that's weird. I think he squared. How did he squared it up somehow that it was okay that he had the money, and I was like, I don't think that's what they meant.
Well,
but
I mean,
like,
what does he do with the rest of it though? You know what I mean? Who am I to say if a guy makes $2 million and he gives 200,000 to somebody, to John 3:16?
No. Right. I'm perfectly fine with that. But so at one point, Jesus is walking along, and a wealthy man comes to him and says, "Lord, Lord, I've heard your teachings. They're amazing. What do I have to do to follow you?" And he said, "It's simple. Just give away all your possessions and come follow me." And he's like, "Oh, well, I can't do that." Like they can't part with the possessions. So like I am socially liberal as far as you can do what you do. I'm gonna do what I do. Personally, I have conservative views as far as like my daughter, when she was like 15, she would talk to me about boys and stuff, right? That she likes this boy, wants to talk to this boy and everything else. I'm like, that's fine. I go, let's have a talk though about what happens when you start hanging out with boys, as far as like sex. And like, if you ever end up in a situation where you're in trouble, I want you to understand that I got paralyzed when she was 3. So at 15, I had been paralyzed for a long time, but I still managed to make a living. I owned my home and all this other stuff. I said, if you ever ended up in a situation where you got pregnant and you're 16, 17 years old or something like that, I just want you, my daughter, to understand that I will do everything I'll go broke within my power to raise that child and not have you be affected as far as you'll still go to college. I want you to do everything that you need to do for you, but I would prefer it if you didn't get an abortion. That would be my preference. Now,
Right.
that being said, that's my daughter, my house. I can say those things. I also said to her, inevitably, if you're an adult, if she's 19, 20 years old, it's going to be your choice. But I want you to understand that my roof's always your roof, and you always have a place that you could go to. So if there's a way for you not to do that, it's what I would prefer. But when you're an adult, your choices are your choices. So I would say that I'm anti-abortion for me and mine, but I'm not living in a world where I want to tell my neighbor what they can do. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that whether I'm religious or spiritual or whatever I am, that's with me, between me and who I'm spiritual with, not between me, my government, and my neighbor.
Right.
I've had discussions with guys about like questioning the whole, spiritual thing and some of the scripture and stuff like that. And if we start governing in a way that restricts people from sinning, does that make them a good person? Because in my mind, it doesn't. If I took Charlie Manson, and I put him on a tropical island by himself, and I said, all right, you can't do anything wrong because you're not by anybody. You can't steal from anyone. You can't kill anybody. You can't rape anybody. But the entire time on this island, all this bugger wanted to do was kill somebody, rape somebody, steal. Is he a good person? No, he's not. But did he do the bad thing? No, because he couldn't. So I think if you have a God or whatever is out there, the creator gives us free will to do what we want to do, and then he would judge us by what we did.
Well, it's the condition of your heart.
Sure.
Of why you would want to do these things in the first place.
Right.
So,
the point I was getting to was I'm personally anti-abortion, but I'm not trying to elect people that are trying to make those laws, because I believe inevitably you're not going to stop abortion. You're going to stop legal abortion, which is safe abortion. So if somebody's in a bad situation and they go to get an abortion, it's going to be back alley, and then she's going to be dead. So I don't think my government should step in and make those rules as far as that goes. I believe the framers of this country went to great lengths to be ambiguous about religion so that we wouldn't have a state-sponsored religion sort of a thing. I don't think that we're a Judeo-Christian country. I think we're just a country where you have freedom to do what you want to do. Do you know what I mean? Like those are my thoughts on it. That's just Bill Geigner riffing on how he looks at the way that, the history that I've read and everything else. So that's how sometimes I feel like I'm this persona on Facebook that people get me as this one thing, and then they watch Fox News or something like that, and then they go, oh, this guy is an Antifa guy or something like that. I couldn't be further from the truth. Like, that's not me. If Antifa showed up at my house, I'm going to shoot him in the face.
Right.
So, so like for me, it's difficult because I want to have conversations with people from every end of the spectrum, right? I like some of my favorite people are super Trump supporters. Like I have a good time sitting and have a conversation with those people. And it's not an argument. It's a conversation where I can say how I feel about a subject and they can see how they feel about a subject. And on a lot of issues, it's strange, but we agree on most issues because economically we're from the same background.
Right. I mean, I engage with all types of people. I love, but hey, one thing about me, you're going to hear about my Jesus. We're talking to
That's
me.
right. And to me, that's fine. So now so the addiction thing and everything else, when you first, did someone bring that to you and be like, listen, brother, I know what's going to save you and it's Jesus. When they first tried to hook.
I got Jailhouse Religion.
Yeah, right.
In 2006, I think, and I got released to, I didn't have nowhere to go. I heard bad things about, they call it the workhouse in St. Louis. It's where guys don't have nowhere to go. And it's in the hood. So I did some research and I found a Christian release ministry that would take me. Okay. And that's where I found God. But with that, I still had addict mentality. I still had a street thug friggin' mentality. I was running a store in prison. I was selling weed in prison. Here I get out, and this is when K2 was coming around, the legal fake weed. Oh, you know. Yes. So I got the big idea that I'm going to sell fake weed at the Christian camp because it's legal. Just because something's legal doesn't make it right.
No, right.
So sure. Anyway, long story short, somebody owed me some money. They told on me. They tried to give me another 15 years.
Oh, wow.
While I was out, I got married, got my wife pregnant, and I missed my daughter's birth by 2 weeks.
Oh.
Actually, 6 days.
Damn.
She was born on the 17th, and I was supposed to get released on the 23rd. And her due date was the 23rd. So it took 9 months for me to, even though I did nothing wrong, to get the labs back for the K2, to get through the parole board, and to get back released. Sure. See, so there's the thing. What the world says is all right, what God says is all right, and what the government says is all right, those are at 3 different spectrums.
Yeah, you're a dude living in a world of rules, that's for sure.
Right. You know what I mean? So, and the funny thing is, we can justify it in our own mind any way we want. I can make it okay enough in my own head to make me go do what I want to do. Right. And that's the problem with everybody. We can justify our own sin. We can justify going to get high. Well, this or that, you know, mama this, mama that. Hey, it might be true, but the only one I'm accountable for today is me. So for me, like I said, pain is addiction. Forgiveness is the cure.
Okay.
Because when I forgive somebody like your buddy that had to run in with the priest.
Yeah.
If he would forgive that priest or forgive the man that did it for him, he no longer has to carry that burden with him.
Sure, maybe he has. I haven't spoken to him.
But that's what a lot of people that's been sexually abused, they haven't dealt with that part of it. And I'm dealing with a gentleman right now that's a drunk and an alcoholic because he still hasn't dealt with something that happened to him when he was 8 and 9 years old.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? You are still holding on to the thing that's dragging you through the mud. Why don't you let go of the rope and it'll quit dragging you?
Yeah, right. No, see, no, right. That's another reason for having you on the podcast. You've got valuable advice. I mean, I hope that somebody who's dealing with something. I mean, obviously Bob Allen reached out to you, or did he get the John 3 through you? Or
yes,
no?
He did. See, with Bob, I've been praying for Bob for 3-4 years now, and sending messages. You know, are you ready? Jesus loves you. You want the cure. One day, I sent him one. He was in a crack house. Looked at the phone, seen my picture, threw the crack pipe down, and called me. I said, "Here's what you need to do. You need to be on the first thing smoking tomorrow." and be at my house.
Right.
And he was. He come.
Yeah.
He spent. My dog's trying to eat my plant.
I see that.
So he came. He spent a week with me because I won't take anybody to John 3:16 unless they've been sober for a week. It's that
Wow.
simple.
There you go. Yeah, because I mean, you're just going to relapse anyway if you're not.
Right.
Just a week.
How
right?
serious are you?
Yeah.
John 3:16 is not an easy program. You have to do a phone interview, you have to do an in-person interview, and then you have to do another in-person video interview before they'll even accept you. They don't take anybody.
And I mean,
You just don't show up and they take you.
Right. So you said they keep you working all day. Do they keep a pretty good eye on you too? Because I mean,
Nope. You're free to do whatever you want, man. There's 50 cars on that camp with the keys in them.
Wow.
It's a 200-acre ranch. So we got cars for every building that take guys to lunch and whatever. The keys are in them. We've had cars stolen out there.
Sure.
They got caught.
Yeah.
The thing is that we're trusting you, something that we're going to give you something that you haven't had in a long time. We're going to believe in you. We're going to trust you. You know, it's like I tell people, do you respect me or do I need to earn your respect? Well, you need to earn my respect. Why do I need to earn it? Why can't I get it without? And then if I lose it, that's how it should be.
Sure.
Everybody should be treated that way. Everybody should be treated with the same open book. Hey, until you do me wrong, man, you're okay with me.
Right. No, I don't know. That's a tough. That whole situation is definitely. I mean, there's so many different things to be addicted to, and like even with like what you said when we first started the podcast, like you were doing cocaine and heroin. To me, like those are two opposite things, right? Like, I mean, one's an up and one's a down, right?
Right.
I just watched the documentary on Belushi, and the way he died was he did both at one time.
Yeah, speedball.
Speedball, right.
Yep. You
So,
get
I mean,
too high, so you want to come down.
is that what that? I don't know. I totally lost, man. I wouldn't know. So, I mean, like, you know, I think some things frightened me as a kid with that stuff. Like, my dad was like a authoritarian parent. You know what I mean? He was pretty much like, you know, listen, if you do drugs, I'll kill you. Like sort of a thing, right? I went over to my buddy Bob's to pick him up to go out. Went inside the house. His parents were real nice. Always talked to him and stuff. And me and Bob were sitting in the kitchen getting ready to leave. And his mom goes, "Hey, Bob, if you go out and you do drugs," and I was like waiting for her to be like, "Don't come back," or, you know, "I'll be pissed," or something like that. She's like, she said something that I was like, it actually made me think like twice about this situation. She goes, if you're out and there's drugs and you want to try them, you know, be careful, Bob, because you don't know where those come from, and someone could put something in it and you don't know, like, you know, it's street stuff. It's not like it's, you know, prescription or something like that where you know what it is. You don't know what someone's doing and stuff like that. So just really be careful if you're going to experiment with drugs. I don't think Bob ever touched drugs. And then that night, I was like, shit, man, she just made me think that this guy could have put rat poison in the cocaine or whatever like that. And I was actually like, I should not do any drugs because this could be a problem.
Instead of the forbidden fruit. It's...
Right. The speech my dad gave me was, all it said was, I'm going to beat your ass if you do some drugs. And I said to myself, all right, Bill, if you do drugs, don't get caught.
Don't get caught.
Right. That was it. That was the only thing. My only motive of operation was don't get caught by the old man. He's going to kick your ass. Yeah. So that's a dumb motivation. You know what I mean? So like with my sons, it's the opposite. I tell them like, you know, hey man, I'm totally open about it. You know, I know people that smoke a little grass. I know people that it's ruined their life. So you better choose wisely. And if you're someone who feels like it's something you could be hooked on, you better stay the hell away from it. I know guys that grew up in alcoholic families, like their dad or mother was a severe alcoholic, and they have never, I know a guy, he's got to be 55, 60 years old maybe, and he's never had a drink of alcohol in his life because he lived in that situation, saw that go on, And he's like, I'm afraid that if I do it, I'll like it and I will just do it. Like, I don't listen to country music for that exact reason. I hear a little bit of it. I'm like, ooh, that sounds good, but I don't want to be a country fan. So
Right.
like, I'm not doing that. And I make a joke that I don't listen to country music for the same reason Republicans don't like to be around gay people. They might like it. So, I'm just picking on my Republicans.
I know. I mean, but that's so weird how the spectrum goes. Two siblings in the same family grew up. One ends up being an alcoholic, one doesn't.
Yep.
In the end, it's your choice.
I do see a lot of families where I feel like it's genetic too, though. I do see a lot of families where it seems like, there's one family in particular that I grew up with. The one guy that was in prison is part of that family. And the 4 boys, oh man, some drinking. Holy cow, some drinking. I mean,
Yeah.
You went to Lincoln Way, the Shanahan boys.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what you call it? I did a fair amount of drinking with them. I love all of them to death, but boy, they could drink. I mean, Holy cow.
Drink and fight.
Drink and fight. That was what we did. We pretty much got drunk and it was 10 o'clock and there was no girls. Let's find somebody to punch.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. We're just
But in the end, it's still a choice.
Yeah. No. It was it for sure. They went from times. Danny was the guy that I ran with, right? So Danny would go on spurts where he wouldn't drink for like 6-7 months, and he was just way better off without it as far as that goes. He cleaned up because as soon as he started again, boy, I mean, there were times where I went to drop that guy off, and he would put his face on the hood of my car and fall asleep standing up, like so smashed. And I'm like, dude, I'd have to honk my horn and get him off the hood so he could go inside and go to bed.
I believe it.
Right. So, I mean, I see it. Do you ever see yourself being in a position where can you just have a beer or no?
No.
No.
I just don't. I don't drink for the taste. I drink for the effect. I mean, I drink vodka or whiskey because I don't like the taste of beer. And when I drink, I don't socially drink. I slam 6 shots and then I'm buzzed and now we can start having fun. You know what I mean?
Right. So it's a social lubricant.
It comes to where, get down. It comes to the point where you're waking up in the morning and you're shaking so bad that you can't get out of bed. But if you go hit 3 shots real quick, the shakes will be gone and you'll be able to function.
Yeah, right.
So there I am with the guy that I'm ministering to now, trying to get him in, is that's where he's at. He's like,
so now, would that be similar to what? So I had a guy on another guy who lost his son to heroin, and he runs a group for addiction where he tries to get guys. He hands out. I used to have it on my table when I did the podcast in person. He hands out the thing that you give somebody when they're ODing, that you
Narcan.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he hands that out all the time because he's like, you never know who you're going to run into, and you can save a life and that kind of thing. So he always gives people Narcan, and his situation was that most of these heroin addicts don't do heroin to get high. They do it to get even, to get
well.
Right, to get well, to be normal. Yep. They do it. So that always blows me away. And like, I've seen heroin done a million times on TV or in a movie, and it doesn't look like anything that I'd want to do. It doesn't look fun. It looks like they shoot this stuff up and then they go to sleep.
Well, that's because it's on the movie.
Okay, right. So that's the misinformation that's out there.
I mean, some people do get to that point. I had to function because I had to get my next high. But I wasn't the do a shot, sit on the couch and nod out. I was the do a shot and let's go paint the bathroom, or because there was no pain, warm. I mean, the euphoria you feel from a shot of heroin is why you get hooked. But then you stay hooked because of the physical and mental withdrawals of it.
Right.
I
Okay.
mean, I'm talking about the COVID time 100.
Yes. Right. No, I've heard.
And like I said, $10 in your car keys on the table and I'm dope sick, ain't going to make it because I'm not staying sick.
Right, because it's a survival thing. You're going to
Yeah.
get well if you go right. So we were in New Orleans, me and Danny Shanahan, and we spent 20 days in New Orleans just drinking, having a good time on Bourbon Street, all that stuff. And I would every night, like late, 12:30, 1 in the morning, I would get propositioned by women on the street that wanted some odd denomination of money. And you'll right away understand what they were doing. But they'd want like $13 or $14 or $16 or something like that for a blowjob. And I was always like, what the hell? There was one woman that I remember vividly. She was attractive. Like she was a decent looking woman. She walked up, started talking to me. I started talking to her because, I'm going to talk to every woman that talks to me anyway.
Right.
And she wanted $13 and she'd go in the alley. And I'm like, oh, I go, no, I thought you were just, she goes, no, and I go, don't take this wrong. I hope you, find the $13, but that's not my thing. So, no thanks. And I walked on and I got into a cab a couple of days later. I'm like, all right, cab driver, you got to explain this to me, man. I've been in Chicago a bunch of times, down on Rush Street, all that stuff. I've seen prostitutes. They want $50. They want $40. They want something like that for whatever their service is. Why are all these women propositioning me for like 12 or $13 or weird? He goes, that's exactly what it's going to cost to get their fix. They're heroin addicts. And that's the money they need. They might have $10 in their pocket, but they need the other 12 to make 22 to go get the thing that they need to get
get the dope in the shot. You know what I mean?
Right. That's what they're trying to do. And I'm like, get out. He goes, no. He goes, they're going to go take care of you in the alley, take that money and go get high. And then they'll be back on the street to do it again because they're going to need to get high in a little bit again, which I think he was mistaking saying high when what they're trying to do is get normal.
Right. Get well.
Right. Right. Right.
You're not the same person. And meth is real big out here. Methamphetamines.
Right.
And boy, it is eating people alive, man.
I have not been around that much. I've seen a couple of people that have said they've done it, but I haven't been around it in a way that Missouri, I hear it's pretty rampant.
It's rampant. Yeah.
I hear it's kind of rampant, probably just 30 miles, 40 miles south of me here in Illinois.
Yeah.
Central Illinois, it's a real thing too.
Yeah.
We grew up in the Lincoln Way area, and we always had this when we were little kids, this assumption that the kids from the gang kids from the city, they were the tough kids and stuff like that. And as I grew up, I found out that was complete bullshit. The kids from the city, they had all kinds of shit to do, man. There's museums and theaters and concerts, shit to go to. There's shopping. There's all these places to work and all this other shit. When you live out in the country, the further you get out of the country, the less shit there is to do. The further I moved out to the country and met more people, the more people that I met I was freaked out, man, the first time I met people from Peatone. Holy shit, man. There were some drug-doing motherfuckers from Peatone. Just terrible. And then all of them were pregnant by 17, 18 years old. And it's because they had nothing to do. All they had to do is get fucked up and knock each other up and stuff. It was just a bad situation. So when you get out, in the country, out in Missouri or out in central Illinois, we go down to Danville for some wrestling. And woo, man, you go through Taco Bell, and I'm not sure I want to eat the thing the guy just handed me. He looks a mess. The guy looks like he just got high. And he just handed me food that looks like he was high when he made it. Everything's a mess. I go in to visit a buddy of mine who owns a bar down there in Danville, and he's like, oh, yeah, we have a serious meth problem in this area. And I'm like, wow, that's for sure. So, yeah, I don't know what do you do about that when an entire area has...
Dude, it's rough. I got a meth house 2 doors down. I watch people walk by my house all day, every day.
How long have you been clean now?
I've been off heroin 13 years.
Okay.
Alcohol 19 months.
Right. Okay.
So, but times have changed, and the meth of the 70s isn't the meth of today.
Oh, so it's like pot.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Well, it was much better for you, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
It is now. I mean, the chemicals they used to make meth back then was a more pure chemical than the Drano, the Coleman fuel, the the lye, all the stuff they're putting in it now. It's nuts.
That's what always kept me from. One of my buddies would want to do acid all the time, and he would offer me acid, right? And the one time I looked at him and I said, "All right," I go, "How long does that last?" And he's like, "Oh, 8 to 12 hours." And I'm like, "Oh my God, are you out of your mind? I'm not going to be screwed up for 8 to 12 hours." And then he was like, I'm like, "What is that? Like, what is it exactly?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's just a bunch of chemicals, like something." Like, "Oh no, screw
They
that."
made in the bathtub.
Yeah, right. Like, I'm supposed to trust that you didn't screw that up, and you're a drug addict. Like, that's not going to work. So that always scared me off of that. The heroin thing scared the shit out of me. First off, I don't like needles. Like that's scary as shit to me anyway. And then hearing the stories about people that were totally screwed up from it and everything else. And then, so like I'm limited to like a little bit of weed, a little bit of pot, and then, beers and drinking and stuff like that. And I did not, I used to drink pretty good where we'd go out drinking and I'd get drunk. But I pretty much every time I got drunk, I was like, man, I don't do that again. And I would like set it down for a while and then come back to it, sort of a thing. So I don't know, maybe I'm just a wimp or whatever like that. But
well, methamphetamines is one of the only drugs that that rewires your brain.
what does it do?
Rewires your brain. It actually fries off the receptors for your neurons to go to, and so they have to go to a different one.
And, so you can't receive the same dopamine?
Right.
Okay.
You can't even think the same. A big joke with these meth guys that have got clean is we don't get it all back. They don't get their whole mind back.
Right.
I am so blessed to sit here in front of you and be able to have an intelligent conversation.
Sure.
All the drugs, the alcohol, the cocaine, the crack. There ain't nothing I ain't done.
Right.
And some of these guys, and it's like, how are you ever going to hold a job?
See, now some of that stuff for me was also prohibitive because like I would smoke some pot, be drinking, and then I'd fall asleep. And I'm like, man, that did not work out. I was really there to chase girls. So I figured if everybody else got stone drunk and stoned and everything else, I'd be the last guy standing, and then I could get
a better shot.
Right. So, and I didn't think it was that attractive for me to be falling down anyway. So, I figured I'd work that angle. So, yeah, I mean, being heavy into drugs, I couldn't do it because, I couldn't get laid. You know what I mean? So that was where I was trying to be as far as that went. So, so there's so many upsides. And like I said, I'm not a guy that considers himself a Christian, but there's so many upsides for a guy that's dealing with addiction, living in that situation, right? Because there's a bit of unconditional love that's with those people, right? They're always trying to help you out as far as it goes. And then I'll tell you what, I never was at a place that the women were more understanding and helpful. Like if you're an addict and you're a guy that's, trying to do his best, you found Christ and all this stuff, there will be a woman there that will take you on in that situation because she feels like maybe you're on the same path as her, you're, the Christ thing, sort of a thing. I have actually been perplexed by some of the relationships I've seen where I'm like, that woman is beautiful. She seems intelligent. And that guy is a complete freaking loser, but he keeps talking about Jesus and he's working it out somehow. Yeah. So, and then the support, it almost seemed like when I was with that Bible study that it was almost a perfect support group for guys that were dealing with addiction, because everybody there was trying not to even partake in having a beer because of people dealing with addiction. Like, I've never been to another group of people. I belong to a muskie fishing group that we'd get together. We'd have meetings about, stocking lakes and we talk fishing and all that other stuff. It was a social thing, but we're all drinking. And if someone had an alcohol problem, no one could give a shit. You know what I mean? But like the religious guys, they totally care about that. Like it really does seem like they genuinely care about how you're doing.
We love people.
Yeah, right.
We love people like Christ loved the church, man.
Yeah,
unconditionally.
Right.
Jesus Christ was the perfect man, the sinless man, and yet he died for the worst of the worst, which is me.
Sure.
Even when I had that needle in my arm, he still would have went and took the nails for me.
Sure.
That's how we say, I'll love you till you can love yourself. And sometimes you just need somebody to wrap their arms around and tell you, I love you. I can't tell you how many people I've told I love them, and they're like, I've never been told that before. Or how many people
I'm sure.
Or I've been invited to church, and they're like, nobody's ever invited me to church. Or, hey, I like to invite people to our small group because it's dinner and we do a little Bible study. Come and see me live Jesus out in front of you. I don't want to hit you over the head with a Bible.
Sure.
I want you to see something different in me that will make you ask the question, why?
Right. So when I was at that study, I did run into 2 guys out of, 50 or so that I really got to know real well, because every year with that, they switch up your group, right? So you're not in the same group of 12 guys. You're in a different group of 12 guys every year, right? So over the 4 years, I was in 4 different groups, about 50 different guys that I ran into that I really got to know. And, but 2 of the guys that were in that 50, they were there for the wrong reason. One was trying to sell print work to everybody he talked to. You know what I mean? Like they were using it. They were using it as a networking situation. And it was so bad that like the contrast between those guys and the guys that were there to spread the love and to like help other guys out, it was such a different thing that they stuck out like sore thumbs.
Right.
Like, holy cow, dude, you've got to stop talking like this, because it's obvious that you're, like you keep talking about your work and this thing. And like, do I have any, why are you even having these conversations here in this situation?
Right.
And like, once that guy wasn't with the group or wasn't there that time, people would talk about, hey, I think he's here just to network. You know what I mean? So it's like, you can't take that guy seriously, sort of a thing.
Right.
So I don't know if you run into that too, but I run into that probably on a much higher level with the general public than I would even in that situation. You know what I mean? Like
I run into that at John 3, John 3:16. Guys are coming from jail. Prosecutor comes to you and says, hey, I'm going to give you an opportunity to do 4 years, or you can go and try to get into John 3:16 ministries. What would you like to do? Well, heck, let me go try to get in that ministry.
Yeah.
Okay, but here's the thing. 90% of those people don't complete the program because they're not there for the right way.
Sure.
What if you're living in the dark, it's going to come to light. We don't always have to put somebody on blast, because they'll do it to themselves.
So now you're saying that it's a 6-month to 18-month program?
6 months to a year.
6 months to a year. So who decides that? Like how do you know when what if you're, if you're a 6-month guy or you're an 8-month guy or a 12-month guy, how do you know?
Let you know.
Oh, they let you know, they tell you?
Yeah.
So your buddy Bob, goes there and
it comes up to 6 months and he goes and he asks his instructor, he says, hey man, let me get my exit plan. Because you got to do an exit plan. What you're going to do when you leave. What's your steps, things that you got in place. And he says, man, I don't think you're ready to go. I think you should stay 2 more months. For 1 or 2 reasons, he's going to say it. He's really spiritually led and feel like Dude, you're a 40-year drug addict. You think 6 months is going to do you any good?
No, right.
Okay,
right.
so I'm going to suggest you stay 2 more months. One, he'll either let you graduate, depending on how you react. See, the way you react to things should have changed in the 6 months you were there.
So now, do you know what the recidivism is there? Like, how many guys that graduate, how many guys go like the full year, they get out of there and end up in a situation where they relapsed or back into it? Like, how successful is that program?
I'd say it's 80%.
That's not bad.
No, 80%.
Now, have you ever heard about you were talking about meth rewiring your brain and stuff like that, but they say like heroin addiction and all the addiction itself somehow kind of rewires you too. There's these people that are going down to South America and stuff like that, and they're doing like DDT, or they're doing
psychedelics,
DMT, or they're doing ayahuasca or something like that. And they're supposed to, like, I saw a documentary on it where a guy was straight up like heroin addict, always needle in the arm, always screwed up. They got the money together. They sent him down there. He came back and he never, as far as the documentary goes, he was totally done. He never even wanted it, didn't want, like, it somehow rewired him to not have any desire for it at all.
I mean, I don't know. I know people that do the ayahuasca. They do it in a controlled setting, though. Church type setting.
Right. The shaman or whatever taking them through it.
That walks them through it. And they do it. They're just, but they're doing it for something other than to get high. You know what I mean? Getting high is not the main objective. You know, like you said earlier, it's not bad to drink. It's bad to get drunk.
Right.
If that's your purpose for drinking wine is to get drunk, then there's something wrong with it.
Yeah, so for me, the drunk part was always sometimes a side effect.
Right, it's a byproduct.
Right. I like a glass of red wine because I like the way red wine tastes.
Right.
I like whiskey because I like the way whiskey tastes. But for me, I take a glass like this glass, and I would make myself put ice in there, pour 4 or 5 shots of whiskey in the glass. That's my drink for the entire day. That's it. That's all I'll drink for the entire 4 hours I'm hanging out or whatever. Now, I've had podcasts where we open up a bottle of wine. I got a girl. Most of my podcasts, like this Zoom thing, it's bullshit. Like, I like to sit across from a guy and have a conversation with him because it's just, I don't know, the conversation flows better. We don't talk. You can hear someone go to take that breath to talk, so you don't talk over them. There's just a better feel about it. But with COVID, this is where I'm at. This is what I got to do. But so, I've had a girl come in the studio. We sit down. We open a bottle of wine, start drinking. And probably by the end of the podcast, I've drank half a bottle of wine or 3/4 of a bottle of wine. I got a little buzz on. I'm drunk. It wasn't my intention. I was having a conversation, drinking while I was doing it, and it just happened, sort of a thing. I didn't open the bottle of wine to get drunk, sort of a thing, right? So, right. But the guy that's an alcoholic, I've seen those guys. It's a totally different situation.
No, I would, I would go get a fifth of whiskey before we went to the bar.
Yep, right. That's my buddy Eric.
Whiskey, and me and you would kill it before anybody showed up at the party, so we didn't have to share it.
Yes, right.
That's
my buddy Eric. My buddy Eric will show up to a dinner party with a case of Pabst and a fifth of whiskey. And I'm like, whoa, dude, what are you doing? And he will drink that fifth of whiskey after his second beer. The fifth of whiskey will be gone. And then he'll start in on the beers. And I'm like, holy cow. Like, and then maybe a little pot in there too. And I'm like, I look at him and I have no idea how he's functioning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, well, hey man, I know it's getting late. You've had a lot to do as far as that stuff goes. We're about 2 hours in. I'll cut you loose, but I want to check back with you again because
I'd love it. Anytime, man.
Cool.
I enjoyed it.
If there's anything you have, send me. I can look it up, but send me a link to the John 3 stuff.
Okay,
and then unless there's something else that we haven't covered in the podcast, and I do this podcast as a conversation. I'm supposed to like be trying to get people to subscribe. I appreciate you subscribing today.
Yeah.
But I'm supposed to be like doing that. I'm supposed to like hawk that stuff in the beginning. I don't do it for that reason. I do it because I want to have a conversation with you. I do it because the people that we're all connected with, that we went to school with on social media and everything else, they see the link on Facebook and then they check it out. I really do it to entertain myself and my friends.
Hey, I shared it with numerous people today, and then when this gets uploaded, I'll share it some more.
Cool.
You know what I
I'll
mean?
have it uploaded. Yeah, by tomorrow morning we'll be
Okay.
up and running. And then like I said, keep me posted. And hey, like I said, I'm agnostic. That for me that's different than like an atheist. An atheist says there is no God. Agnostic just says I'm not practicing anything.
Right. I know there's something, just not know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, and I'm not here to. I have friends that want to tell people that there is no God, and I'm like, how could you do that? Because you don't know. But that's where I'm at with it right this minute. I may go somewhere else with it, in time. But I see the value in what you're doing 100%. Like, I mean, absolutely. And I mean, I see the, NIV there behind you and everything else. And I mean, stick with it, man. Even though I'm a guy who I seriously, like, I have struggles when I do my critical thinking and then I think about a boat with a bunch of animals on it. Like, it just doesn't, I can't make all that work. So, but the philosophy that's in that book, man, it is, I would, even if you don't want to be, if anyone's listening to this and you don't want to be someone who is Christian or is religious or is spiritual, but you're having problems in life, oh my gosh, there's so many things in, like, you touched on porn. One of my buddies watches porn for 8 hours a day. And I'm like, I gave him actual scripture to read. And I'm like, listen, you got to read scripture on lust because you're wasting your life away watching this crap. And you're never going to have a functional relationship with a woman because
you're fulfilling it yourself.
Yes, right. And you have this like mental picture that you're going to have a conversation with a woman and within 5 minutes she's going to be sucking your dick. That's not reality. And you've got your brain all screwed up on this stuff that you're watching. So you need to and the scripture that's in there, whether you think there is a guy in the sky watching you or something like that, if you just read it as philosophy and you go, listen, I'm not going to be a productive human being if I waste all my time doing this. I can't be pining over my neighbor's wife because it's not healthy. It's not going to be better for me in my life. So I see a lot of upside to the Bible as far as if you could try and model yourself out to live that way, you can do a lot better than what you're doing because, as humans go, we're wretches. One of my favorite one of the favorite things I learned in BSF was the author of oh God, what's the song? It's a song that was written by a former slave. He was a guy that was a slave captain, a ship captain that would go get slaves and come back. And it's like a hymn now or something. Ray Charles sings a version of it too. But A Wretch Like Me. But anyways, he talks about that humans are wretches. And if left to our own devices, we are. But like he found Christ and he stopped being a slave trader and all that other stuff. So like it changed him profoundly from being a person who was literally selling human beings for money to a person that couldn't do that. He was an abolitionist after that. Like he was, there's a, even though I'm not a guy that's practicing it right now, there's 100% a lot of value in it as far as that goes. Like I said, my mom's super religious. For her, it's her lifeblood. She has church 3 days a week now on Zoom.
Yeah, my mentor's he's in apologetics, and he actually preaches on the cults. He's an ex-Jehovah's Witness.
Oh, right.
He would be a great guy for you to talk to, man. You ever want to do
Hook me up with him, because you know what? I have had that conversation with my mother, and I'm like, listen, Mom, I love you, but I want you to understand that I believe you're in a cult.
Yeah,
I believe that you are, and I go, some of the things that you're doing, I don't believe that they're helpful. Like the whole holiday thing and everything else, like it's not helpful. I understand the reason that you think you're doing it, but it's not, it's counterproductive to the people in your life. Like her grandkids and stuff don't understand her because like she's never shown up with a birthday gift. She's never
right.
shown up at Christmas time. She seems like a person that doesn't like them very much as far as that goes. And then the minute that they say something that has to do with something like, hey, what music are you listening to? And they're, they say something like, we're listening to this rapper or something like that. And she's like, well, you're glorifying someone besides Christ and stuff like that. And I'm like, wow.
If you don't fit into their box, their square box of the JW, the Watchtower, they don't even associate with you. If you were a Jehovah's Witness, if you were raised Jehovah's Witness, and you decided, this ain't right, I'm going to step out of this, Mom, I'm done with it, I'm going to go to a non-denominational church.
Yeah.
They would not talk to you anymore.
Right.
They would disfellowship you. I mean,
I had that go on, right.
What kind of Christ-claiming church, that is the furthest thing from love I can imagine.
Well, I had that exact scenario go on. So my mom tried her best to get me to go there, And I actually went a couple times, like to check it out and everything. And I'm like, hey, this just isn't for me. She sent people, because they go door to door constantly, right? She sent people over to, hard sell me on the whole thing. And I explained to her, I go, listen, I appreciate that you're here, that you're trying. I know your heart's in the right spot, but I'm not interested. So just save your time. I'm not going to be there and stuff like that. And my own mother at one point just quit. She quit talking to me. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's how it's going to be. That I can't do anything. The last thing I said to her was, you're in a cult. You need to get help. I'm sorry it's like this, but good luck. Do your thing. She just started talking to me again recently, and I'll talk to her, but like I have to explain to her, like, I don't trust her the same way. Like, it's not going to be like it was before. We're not going to be pals because you're going to try. All she's going to do is try again. She's going to try and send people over to get me to get to that church, and it's not going to be a thing. And she gets, it's very difficult. It's like, I sometimes feel that way when I sometimes talk to people with the Trump stuff too, because I can't square in my head some of the evangelical Christians that are super Trump supporters, and the guy to me seems like he's completely living the non-Christian life. Like he seems to be the epitome of what can't make it to the kingdom of heaven. As far as cheating on every wife and, the rich man bullshit and all that other stuff. So, but she does the same thing. If you start to bring any of that up, she gets upset. She's not a Trump supporter, but if you start bringing up things about her church, she gets real mad. And I'm like, listen, I don't want to begrudge her that either, because she has, all of her friends are there. Her whole life is there. I want her to be happy, but I also don't want her to be really in that cult.
That's why it's a cult. They make it so associating anything outside of that body is prohibited, because they're afraid you're going to be swayed to the truth. That's why they, and that's why being a Christian, being a servant is what we are. If you're going to be a Christian, you got to serve. So the building, like I said, the building is a building, and we just meet there. If we're not out trying to tell people about Jesus and being with people in the streets, we're not doing our job. The best thing about the Jehovah's Witness is they try to spread. They try to spread a message.
Yeah.
No, it's not the right message. They don't.
They sometimes feel like they prey on people too, though. They try and find someone that's got a problem, and they try and use that problem as leverage to get them into the church.
Right. Hey, if you want to get rid of them, just invite them in. Tell them, I got 6 Bibles. Come on in. They're like, nope, here's a tract.
Right.
They don't want to go to war with somebody that's got any knowledge.
Yeah, no, sure. Right. Well, I don't want to And I don't, I don't want to bring anybody. I guess I'm not on that mission, right? The only person that I really want to get out of there is my mom. The
Right.
rest of them, you can go do what you want to do. I don't care. But my mom, I'm like, I wish you would just stop doing that stuff. And, I dealt with all the fights that my parents got into over it. And I was, 12-year-old kid. So I didn't realize what my dad was saying about the situation, but he wasn't wrong as far as that goes. But he wasn't a practicing Catholic either. So like that didn't matter either. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and there was some things that my mom would say about Catholicism that she wasn't wrong either. Like the Catholics were not living. I can meet a whole lot of Catholics that couldn't recite any scripture to you.
Well, to me, the Catholic Church is a cult-like religion too. So
Right.
So
Yeah, it's tough. But
it's
hey, man,
tough.
keep doing your thing. Keep,
I will, and I'll get you. I'm gonna have Charles Smith's his name,
okay.
and I'll have him send you a friend request.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll look for him and then.
Oh, he's a great guy.
Good.
All right, well, let's get together again.
Sounds good. Have a nice night, man.
You too, man. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.